Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 10th debate lecture. Today, we're going to be doing another motion breakdown. And today we have this house believes that feminist movement should oppose military interventions which claim to further women's rights. Now, first of all, this motion is from Zagreb EUDC 2014. So the motion may be a bit foreign. So if you're Korean, it might look a bit weird as it's talking about things that we're not that used to about feminism and military. But these are going to be some types of motions that look a bit novel, but you do need to figure it out and make arguments. The first thing that I want to point out is if you're looking at a feminist movement motion, if you're not a debater or just someone that does that type of stuff, you might not be super sure how to deal with feminist movements or emotions relating to that. But if the motion says feminist movement, 99 out of 100 times, you need to be arguing that women's rights are benefited on your side. Like, there's no way the motion says feminism in it. And then you only talk about military, or you only talk about the economy or men. It's going to be you talking about why it benefits women. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing that we can learn from this motion is the motion type. And when I say motion type, I'm talking about rules that are specific to AP. So if you look at this format, it says this house believes that. So you might think, oh, this is a value motion, and we're talking about what we believe in. That's not actually true, because the motion says this house believes that something, in this case, the feminist movement, should. When it's formatted as this house believes that X should, it's a policy motion, and it's the same rule apply as this house would. So basically, you're able to model, and it's a policy motion, and you have fiat power. So if you have fiat, in this case, it would mean that if you pass the motion, the feminist movement will indeed oppose military interventions. And if you follow the motion, then the feminist movement will indeed propose the military interventions. And you're able to explain your world at a reasonable amount, and then you'll be ensured that that thing will happen, as long as you don't go overboard and use too much money or talk about unrealistic things. So that's the second thing that we can learn from this type of motion. Now let's talk about other stuff. Let's just look at the motion. This house believes that feminist movement should oppose military interventions which claim to further women's rights. Generally think about what a military intervention would mean. For example, it would be military operations in certain areas. In this case, likely in a situation or a place where women's rights are violated, maybe in a developing world, in a conservative country where women don't have enough rights. Often it's going to be the UN peacekeeper forces or EU's forces NATO's forces, sorry, that are going to intervene in a military way to further women's rights. But notice that you can't just end here. Like, that's a viable argument. And that's the type of critical thinking that is required in these type of motions. But really, if you're not a debater but a smart person, you would probably say that. And you might end that there. You can't do that. So it's not just whether these military interventions should be done. It's not just that. That's not the extent of it. It's not, will it help women's rights? That's not the extent of it either. It's about opposing that, and it's about that feminist movement in specific should be opposing that. That's the reason why it doesn't say this house would, because this motion wants to specify what this house is, and at the same time, not to make this only about that house. So this house is something, and that something, this movement should do something. You need to prove it to that extent. So why is it the feminist movement that needs to specifically oppose these military interventions? So then you need to argue. Um, you can argue that feminist movement should not support these military interventions. You would say that on the prop side by saying women's rights are more violated when there are military interventions, since more women would die, and that does not solve the root cause of the problem. And you can say that the feminist movement should oppose it because the feminist movement has an obligation to care about women's rights, and NGOs, these movements are very big influencers in deciding like military decisions or international decisions. You can say something like that. You might be thinking that's a bit obvious. Well, there are also arguments that are less obvious. For example, in this case, you can say something like how it impacts the feminist movement. So in prop side, you can also argue that people that are related to international relations, or people that live in the country with the military intervention, or people just involved in war, often don't care what the feminist movement is going to say. And they do not want the feminist movement to talk about issues that they're doing. They think it is less relevant. So that's why if the feminist movement talk about military interventions, what they're going to do is not stop the military intervention, but actually have a bigger hatred and a bias against the feminist movement. And the movement itself loses power. You can also run an argument like that. So how it affects the feminist movement in this case. And that's why it's very important if you have a motion, think about what the motion is trying to say, what the spirit of the motion is, and how you need to approach the motion. In this case, those were the important parts. Thank you.